Fleetwood Mac. We're joined in the studio by Mark Stimson, the new Barnet manager of about 6 weeks ago. You mentioned earlier, Mark, that you obviously played for quite a few clubs. You played for Spurs, Newcastle, Portsmouth, Southend, Barnet for a short while, Leyton Orient as well. What's your happiest time as a footballer?
Happiest time as a football player? I would say Portsmouth was a good time. I enjoyed the football there. I think every club I've been to, there's been certain stages you really enjoy, but there's been other times when you're not playing, you're disappointed. You can't get away from the fact that I was at Newcastle, didn't play a lot in the season, they got promoted, but the atmosphere and the buzz around the place was second to none, and you don't understand the word passion for football until you actually, I think, live in somewhere like the North East, because it is actually, everybody just talks about football 7 days a week, and that was a good buzz. But there's been certain times. Southend, I started off there when they were Championship, and we just missed out on the playoffs there for a team at the time who was a small side in that division, playing under Ronnie Whelan, an ex-Liverpool legend. Some of the football we played there was outstanding. But I was quite fortunate when I left the full-time game and went into part-time, semi-pro, whatever you want to call it. I actually went and played at Canvey Island, and we achieved some great things there, and won a trophy. But me personally, I get a bigger buzz out of managing.
So you've been in this sort of life and this, whole football situation for what, 25 years or so. Do you sometimes think, I'd really like to just put down some roots and stop this nomadic lifestyle and moving about left, right and centre? Do you sometimes wish you could just stay in one place for, a period of time? Does it get a bit wearing having to move around all the time?
No, not at all. I think you get used to that, and that's the game, isn't it? And I was at Spurs as a youngster, then had to move up to the North East at 20. I did that and then moved back down south to Portsmouth, and then what I call moved back home when I signed for Southend. So no, I've been fortunate enough to live in some lovely places of the country, see some fantastic different venues, had children in different places. My boy was born in Newcastle, my eldest daughter was born in Portsmouth, my youngest one was born in Hornchurch. So it's been a good experience that way, but never ever think about changing it. My aim is to try and stay in the game as long as people like, Sir Alex Ferguson and Harry Redknapp.
So you've lived in some lovely places in the country and Gillingham?
I didn't live in Gillingham.
Oh, didn't you?
No, I stayed in Hornchurch, and that's where I live now. So when I came back to Southend, I got settled in Hornchurch, and that's where I've lived now for the last 12 years.
Okay. You're also bringing into the club a guy, who's worked with you quite a lot, Scott Barrett.
Yeah, me and Scott, I bumped into Scott when I played at Leyton Orient. He was the goalkeeper. Obviously I played outfield. And then when I went to Grays, I took over and I needed a goalkeeping coach, and Scott was still actually playing. He doubled up as my goalkeeping coach, plus obviously playing. And good relationship, because Scott on Saturdays is probably the vocal one from the sidelines, because he's obviously a goalkeeper, very loud voice and gives out good instructions, whereas I probably do a lot of the work in the week. And probably pre-game and at half-time. But we're also joined by Michael Stone, who's come on the coaching staff as well, and I worked with Michael in the Spurs Academy for a few years. He's just recently left his job at Rushton to come and join us, and I think the three of us will try and get the best out of the players and hopefully be a successful threesome.
So with regard to you and Scott, would you say it's a little bit like a good cop, bad cop sort of scenario? And he's a shouter on the Saturday, you're the guy in the week who, does the trade. What's the relationship? What's the dynamics there?
Yeah, he might be the shout from the sidelines, but when we go into the change room, I'm the one probably talking the most then. And in the week, Scott works a hell of a lot with the goalkeepers and maybe the back four, where I might be focusing on the strikers for a couple of days, or the attacking players. But then we always combine at the end of the week and prepare like we have to for the games, and it's a combination. I think we bounce off each other. If I've gone in maybe with the constructive criticism on the players, Scott might then be the nice person, or if Scott may have gone in that way, I'll go the other way around. But it's been quite successful so far, and long may it continue.
Okay, so obviously you've come in now with Scott. You're in charge of the team. Would you say you're the club manager or team manager? Now, what I'm referring to is I've basically got a question here from a 14-year-old Bees fan. He was on trial up at Barnet, up at the Hive, and there's a couple of his mates up there as well. Got turned away told you weren't going to take them on. They've now been signed up by other clubs, Norwich, Luton and QPR. Their question to me, to relay to you, his name's Brett Ellis, their question was, are you going to look at the whole setup and are you going to change the way things are done to keep the local players local?
I've always looked at the youth wherever I've been, Graves, Stevenage, Gillingham, and certainly we'll do at Barnet, because it's so important, because we are a club that we want to try and produce players, one for the area, and it's great, and also we have to because of the financial side of things. So when I took over at Gillingham, within 6 weeks of being at Gillingham, I got a young kid who was 15 at the time, still at school. He was actually sub against Barnet in the FA Cup and come on for 20 minutes. The downside of that was that 4 weeks later Arsenal paid 200,000 for him. But no, I'll certainly be overlooking as much as I can. Paul Fairclough is a fantastic coach and also a manager. He's very heavily involved with the youth side of things, and we've already had a brief meeting. I'm asking for fixture lists when the boys are playing. If it's possible, I'd go and try and watch as many games as possible. I've got a very understanding family who know it's 24 hours, 7 days a week, and like I say, I get a massive enjoyment of watching football being played, whatever level. So the good thing you just mentioned there, those young kids who unfortunately did get turned away from us at the time have gone on and got other clubs, and that's just a big thing that the youngsters, or even senior pros, just keep believing in your ability, and if you're prepared to work that little bit harder, keep trying, and sooner or later there's 92 league clubs, there's a lot of non-league clubs, you'll get your break, and we might have made a mistake there, but again it's hard, you have to judge, and who knows what that situation was with that coach. There might be other players in the group with the same position who were at this moment in time more advanced than that young lad, but it's great that he's moved on and he's found himself another club, and with the other boys I wish them all the best.
Okay, you mentioned just now budgets and wage caps. Has Tony Cloutfoss given you a transfer budget? Does he say, okay, you've got that to spend this year?
Not to spend, you've got that to use over the season for the players' wages. That's the budget we've got, and that's what we're working towards now. Okay,
so the situation is that there's obviously a wage cap, and you were mentioning it's linked to the attendances. Is that pretty much correct? So your hands are tied as a League Two manager behind your back somewhat. Is when you're up against the bigger clubs, the Gillinghams with bigger fan base. Do you sometimes feel like you're really sort of fighting a losing battle?
No, never feel that way, but you know the rules and the regulations of it, and there are some bigger clubs who are going to have some big attendance this year, will be able to pay a lot more in wages, but that's part and parcel of the job. What we want to do is we want to get the best valuable players for our team, and like I said, if they all knit together, with some of the boys we've already brought in, we'll be able to surprise some of those bigger clubs, because it does happen. You mentioned just now Arsenal. Now you're playing Arsenal, I think it's, is it next Saturday? Yes, Saturday the 17th, 3 o'clock kick-off. If you haven't got a ticket, go and get one. I'm doing my commercial bit as well. But no, it's a game that I'm sure all the players are looking forward to. I am, because it's against one of the best clubs in Europe, and the way they play the game is second to none. We look forward to them to come down. It'll be a hell of a workout for our players. Hopefully we can keep the score respectable and ask their goalkeeper a couple of questions. And will you be starting with the side that you expect to start the first league game of the season? Not at the moment. It's in pre-season. You've got to give everyone a chance. You do have sort of pictures in your head. You think if it was this Saturday and the league was starting, this would be the team. But we've got a few weeks to go to then, and also we've got a lot of friendlies to get through. And the main thing for me in pre-season, I'm touching a bit of wood as I speak, is to try not to pick up any injuries. We have to play these games. Everyone plays these pre-season games, but it's when you actually start playing the games, a little bit of contact comes in, and that's where you do pick up injuries. Last season at Gillingham, a player that the Barnet fans will know really well, in Simon King, he got a nasty injury away at Bromley and was out for the whole of the season. That's something I hope don't happen again, because, like I said, the most important thing is getting fit. And probably with 2 or 3 games to go in pre-season, that's when you start to see the shape of the team. And the only way that team's going to shape up is the boys who are performing. So whoever's come in the building, whoever was in the building last year and thought they might not got a fair crack of the whip, they're certainly going to get it this year. So even though next Saturday against Arsenal is a friendly, I can imagine the players take it extremely seriously because it's Arsenal. How does your team talk go before they go out? How do you tell these guys to go and mark Robin Van Persie and all the rest of it? What do you say to them before they go out for a game like that? You say to them, like you do in most games,